it's Michalina from Coffee That Gives a Pack. I talk and make coffee here, mostly talk specialty coffee to be precise. If you are not familiar with this segment of coffee industry, check this video out. I explain here what that is and why I think that it is important to give it a try. But if you already know me and my channel, have you subscribed to my channel yet? Do it! You should be asking me a question, where the hell is an episode about the water temperature, Michalina? You talked about it. You said it's gonna be there. Where is it? Here. Do you really? But like seriously, if you don't, then coffee is gonna suck. Needs to use one of these to make the coffee. Well, no. Although, it is helpful. Considering that you gave yourself and the coffee farmers this pleasure of buying a bag of specialty coffee beans, an episode about all the important information on the specialty coffee bags, here. You don't want to screw anything in the coffee preparation. Keeping an eye on the water temperature will help you avoiding the risk of disappointment in the taste of the coffee. Let's go! Can I brew the coffee with boiling water? No. First, it is not really recommended. And second, it is pretty much impossible thing to do. By the time that your water boils and you take the kettle, if you were brewing the water in the kettle, off the heat, and the stream of the water goes into the contact with your coffee, by the time that the water goes through all the little parts of the brewing equipment and touches your coffee, by physics, it's no longer sitting at 100 Celsius degrees. It is a little bit lower, so even if you really want to, it's not that easy to do. According to Specialty Coffee Association, that I always take as a very good source of coffee knowledge, the perfect water temperature for brewing the coffee sits between 96 to 90 degrees Celsius. Bringing your water down to around 96 degrees, it's pretty easy to do. You just wait 30 up to 1 minute after the water was boiling, and the temperature should be sitting around this. But for some coffees, water this high might be actually not beneficial for your extraction. I think that it is very fair to say that for some coffees, hotter water just stands on the way of getting your coffee tasting amazing. So what do I actually mean by some coffees, some beans? How do I really define it and help you to understand it better? Well, if you remember that for different roast profiles, it is recommended to use different temperatures, you're halfway there. Well, then what kind of temperatures for what kind of roast profile, Michalina? Dark roast is less dense. With the longer roasting process, it just simply became more delicate, so easier to break its compounds down, easier to extract and to dissolve in water. So if we used a higher water temperature, 95 degrees or more, the coffee might be very quickly over-extracted because it's so delicate that it doesn't need that much to dissolve all the bitterness in the coffee faster than if we had a lighter roast. Try lower temperatures and you have bigger chances of your coffee tasting sweet and delicious. In cases of lighter roast, as they are more dense and need longer time to open for extraction and some kind of force to get all the flavor compounds out of the beans, the higher temperatures are safer to use here. So anything that starts at around 94 degrees and goes higher is only beneficial for your extraction. But remember, the range of the perfect water temperature is just the guideline. It's not a guarantee. And I myself sometimes make coffee with water temperature sitting at around 85 degrees and the coffee can taste amazing made that way too. But it is amazing for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be amazing made that way for you, but knowing the range of the recommended temperatures will give you a picture of what can happen if you changed your water temperature accordingly to the roast profile. And from this, as a start point, you can experiment, and specialty coffee gives you the space of thinking outside of the box and adjusting whatever you're doing to your own preferences. Now, you probably remember from previous episodes that I am a big fan of consistency in coffee. You will never achieve one if you won't be paying attention to, for example, weighing your coffee and water, as I did here, or also if you're not checking the water temperature, because you might have the guideline: dark roast, lower temperature, light roast, higher temperatures. It is the base. But all the light roasts out there are slightly lighter or darker than one another, and all the dark roasts are more or less dark when you compare them to each other. So your water temperature might also be changing a little bit between the new bags of coffees that you happen to have. Each new bag might need a little bit of adjusting of the water temperature, and you won't be able to adjust anything if you were not precise with the previous coffee that you have, if you haven't checked what is the actual temperature of the water that you used for your previous brews. With this, your life simply becomes easier. We don't know so many things in our lives. At least we can be sure about this little thing. So you get a bag of beans. You make a plan. You know that this is pretty light roast, so you're gonna be sitting at around 95 degrees. You make a coffee, you taste it, and you're not quite there yet. You might notice that it's maybe too acidic, or maybe it's not as rich as it potentially can be. So you know that you can adjust your water temperature by 1 or 2 degrees up or down, and you repeat the process next time you brew the coffee, and you repeat it again until you're satisfied with the results. At this point, you know that you found your sweet spot, and you don't have to rely on any guessing. You just know that it was tasting amazing in, for example, 91 degrees Celsius, and all you need to do is put this into your water, and you always have coffee tasting great. This was about the specialty coffee. You try, you eventually find the perfect cup of coffee by checking the temperature. But what when it comes to commodity coffee? With the commodity coffee that I happened to have, it was pretty dark roast. Really, really dark. So I went very low with the temperature. I sit first in the lowest point of the recommended range of water temperature, so 90 degrees. Well, it wasn't good, so I tried 87 and it still wasn't good. Then I went to 80 and 70 and 60. I definitely tried to think outside of the box, but it just simply didn't work. It was always better. I never gonna brew that again, and that's when it tastes the best. If I may give you a little tip though, if you really are happy to start using, or at least give a try to your little thermometer, make sure that you actually calibrate it, especially when you first buy it, but then every so often just check if it actually is something accurate. It is very easy to do. You prepare a glass or a cup or a bowl or just whatever with cold water and ice. You put your thermometer in it, leave it for a few minutes, and after that time you check if the temperature sits on 0 degrees Celsius. If it doesn't, make it sit there, adjust it accordingly to the instruction of your thermometer. Even if you have to adjust your water temperature by 1 or 2 degrees, trust me, that does change the way how the coffee tastes. Oh no. There's something more. While we talk about the temperatures of water, the coffee temperature is actually something also very interesting. If you want to make more use out of the thermometer than only for checking the water temperature, you use it to check at what temperature your coffee tastes the best for you. Because of course the water temperature changes while you drink it. It goes down, right? Coffee goes down. As a matter of fact, anything that is above 65 degrees Celsius is pretty much impossible for you to taste. Our tongues are simply too delicate to recognize any flavors. You just burn your mouth, and you don't want that. So as per the temperature of serving the coffee, that sits at around 80-85 degrees Celsius, you definitely want to give the coffee 1 or 2 minutes to cool down a little. And if you actually care about finding out how that coffee tastes like. And the bitterness, it's something that you probably taste first. Naturally, in this range of around 60 degrees, that's what stands out first. The lower the temperature, the more acidity and sweetness is easier to notice, but at the same time we are losing some of the aroma simply because the coffee doesn't evaporate this much anymore with time. But you go and you check it yourself. Focus, good beans deserve your attention. Peace and coffee.